In this video, we'll learn how to set individual colors in Photoshop. This is key to using any of the tools or commands that work with color. To practice, I've got the file marigolds.psd open from this week's demo files. And in this example, we'll focus on practicing with the brush tool. I'll activate it by clicking in the toolbar, or I could also hit B on the keyboard. Right now, my foreground color is set to black, so when I click and drag on the canvas, my brush tool makes a black mark. Let's undo that by clicking Edit Undo from the menu bar, then choose a new color using the color picker. We can access that by clicking on the foreground color, either in the toolbar or the color panel. On the left-hand side, I've got these two colored boxes that I can use to set colors visually. This narrow vertical column controls the hue, and hue is simply the name of the color. So let's say I wanted my hue to be blue. I'll click and drag these little triangles to select it. Now I can click inside the larger square on the left to set both the brightness and the saturation of my hue. As I move left or right, I'm controlling the saturation of the color. As I move up or down, I'm controlling the brightness. In the middle of the color picker, I can see the color my foreground is currently set to versus the new color that I'm replacing it with. Sometimes you'll see this smaller box with a little warning sign next to it. And that's the out of gamut warning. That's Photoshop telling us the new color we're selecting is out of gamut for the current color profile, which means it may not be able to print or display on screen correctly. I can fix that by clicking on the warning box, and Photoshop will automatically switch to a similar color that's actually in the color profile's gamut. Another way to easily set a color is to sample it from a file. So while I have the color picker open, I can bring my mouse outside of it, and you see it changes to this little eyedropper tool. I can just click anywhere on a file and grab the exact color of the pixel that I'm clicking on. We could also use the information boxes in the lower right to set colors numerically. You may have noticed these changing as we picked different colors. Now, this layout is a bit confusing, but what we have here are actually 5 different color models that we can use to set colors: HSB, RGB, hexadecimal, lab, and CMYK. Note that this is separate from the color model setting that's saved along with the file, which we covered in a different video. So for example, if our file was set to grayscale color mode and we selected a color using RGB numbers, we'd still end up with a gray color for our file. So the first one we'll look at is HSB, and that stands for hue, saturation, and brightness. This is generally the most intuitive to use for artists and designers. Here, the hue is measured in a range of degrees from 0 to 360, and saturation and brightness are measured in percentages from 0 to 100%. So here I can work back and forth between the visual and the numeric color picking settings, or if I know a specific color number, I can just type that in. For example, I know 360 is a red hue, and maybe I'd like that 100% saturated and at 50% brightness. So you can see I can just type those in and get that specific color. Now I could also do a similar thing with the red, green, and blue or RGB color system. And here I'd be setting a value for red, green, or blue, each in the range of 0 to 255. So for example, I know that orange is 255 red, 102 green, and 0 blue. HSB and RGB are the most common modes you'll use for the types of image editing that we're doing in this unit, and that's what I'd recommend if you'd like to pick colors numerically. Once you've got a color that you like, and you've made sure that it's not giving you that out of gamut warning, you can click OK. That sets it to the foreground color, and now we can use that to brush into the file with the brush tool, or any of the other tools or commands that use the foreground color. We'll cover those more in detail in other videos. Okay, so that's how to set individual colors in Photoshop.